Hi, and welcome once again to another technical tutorial where this time we're focusing on using curve adjustments to change the color in our image. And here we have, as you can see, it's a portrait image in urban setting. This is just straight out of camera. I haven't made any other changes to this image. We're just going to zero in on color curve adjustments. So if we, in our adjustments panel, can find the curves adjustment and fire it up, the first option we have is to work on RGB, but we're not doing that here because we want to work on color. And there's so many things you can do with this, obviously, depending on your personal taste and what you like. But here, I'm just trying to give you a glimpse into the kind of things that I will often do with these. So I will often want to push blue up on the left, the shadows, and balance that by pushing yellow on the other side. And I find that gives quite a sort of pleasing balance and a slightly more contemporary look to the image almost straight away. I also would suggest that you pay attention to your blend mode on these layers, because I, in particular, do not want color changes to affect anything other than color. And I hope you can see there that with normal mode selected, the color changes have actually influenced luminosity in the image. And you can see when I set it back to color, it appears to darken the image slightly, and that's because that effect of my curve adjustment on luminosity has been taken away now. So that's just a tip if you want to isolate your color changes so that they only affect color in the image. I might decide to push some red highlights, which can often, if you want the effect of slightly warming the image there. But as an alternative to that, I was just going to suggest that you might decide that you would like to create a separate curve adjustment layer and just make your red highlight change there. And so that has the advantage that you've got that separated out now. If we just change blend mode again to just to color. So now I can zero out my red change, and I can just feed a smaller amount of that in. And so what I guess what I'm trying to do here is just add a little warmth without making it seem too red. And so on, and I can carry on merrily making as many of these color curve adjustment layers as I like until I'm pushing cyan. And I can experiment with different combinations. I can keep on adjusting, remembering to change my blend mode. And so I'll carry on making these adjustments until I feel happy with the result. One thing that I think is quite useful to point out is that whereas we have the ability to we can make a separate curve adjustment layer in that example just for red. So we've got that granularity if we want it. However, what I will sometimes do is make a bunch of curve adjustment layers, group them with Control G, and then I can then tune opacity on the group. So if I feel that my color changes are basically good, which I usually hope they are, but a bit too strong, I want to make it a bit more subtle, I could decide to group them and reduce opacity on the group, thus pulling back all of my color changes together. Okay, so let's just snapshot there, and we can just go back and review. That's our original image, and there's the image with the color enhancements. Something else that I thought would be worth just mentioning is that we can use color to create separation between the subject and the background. We often use light to do this, luminosity, but we can use color as well. So just to illustrate that, say for example that I was to do another pass on curve color adjustments and push blue once again, get a much sort of stronger blue effect, and perhaps push some cyan shadows there as well. And what I'm doing is I'm really just looking at the background, not too much of that, because what I'm going to do now is selecting my mask and remembering to adjust my blend mode. I'm going to set opacity to somewhere in this kind of 60-70 zone, because what I want to do here is I want to take this color change away from my subject. So I'm now brushing it off my subject. But I want it to blend in, which is why the opacity is kind of medium opacity, which I usually find will enable me to remove most of that color change from my subject, but leave enough of it there in the interests of having her blend nicely with the background. Okay, and so there, I hope you can see that the effect of that layer is to some extent we're using color to create a difference between the subject and the background, which to some extent helps her to pop. And if we snapshot again, we just go back to our original image. Those were the color changes we made, and here we did another pass where we changed the background quite a bit more in the interests of being able to separate our subject from the background. Just adding a little bit more on there. Okay, so there we are, and I hope you find that useful, and thanks for watching.